like to take Professor Datta. Maldives is clearly there is going to be a proxy war, and Maldives is in the middle of it. Okay. We saw similar situation in Sri Lanka. There was also another part to it that the smaller countries in the region, right from Nepal to Sri Lanka, Maldives, and of late Bangladesh, they always enjoyed pitching one against another and enjoying access to easy money. And in this context, they always saw India as an underdog. Now, the first question is, this India is also not that same India. Maldives is too small. So do you think that they have to pay a price for this? If so, in what way? Or
The
can
way
they
I
bear it?
see it, the way I see South Asia, the way I see what China is doing, I've said this and we've discussed this earlier that everything that China does in South Asia has India context. They don't do it because they just want to maximize their engagement or they have a clear idea of the dividends that would accrue, but also how it's going to, marginalize India, hurt India in that context. But again, as we said, we know that we often say this that India didn't, wake up at the right time. But the point is that the capacity is also involved here. I think we were discussing the naval capacity being, increased. We know about the fact after many years, naval budget has finally increased by a certain percentage, but it doesn't match the other budgetary issues. Of course, we are aware of that. At the same time, India is also concentrating on building ports across. We are aware of that. Andaman, Nicobar, and of course, all of South Asia we are examining. But there are clear limitations to the capacity in that sense. But on the other hand, and the point you said about how the other countries are wanting to, I think, use the word balance, I mean, which country would not do that? But what I think, and this is coming to the point that you said about that's not the same India anymore, they also realize the advantages of going with India. So while they are going certainly with many aspects, because the kind of infrastructure development that China has been able to support, India simply can't. So I mean there is no competition there. We are aware of that. And if somebody wants infrastructure support, what would they do? They would go to China. But at the same time, the Sri Lankan experience, the Maldivian experience, right now that's all a huge hype about the Chinese and the support to that. But you recall in the previous government, India bailed them out also because they were not able to pay some of the credit
And in
towards.
February, IMF had warned them of a
Yeah.
debt
So
crisis building up.
and India's growing role as not only as a, as kind of a first responder, as we constantly talk about, but in terms of the economic strength that they have. And also because I think everybody understands that India does not have the kind of a aggressiveness or, it's benign in its kind of engagement. So nobody misunderstands that, but everybody wants to play its own hand, so which is quite clearly. But I'm totally convinced that no matter how difficult our relationship with Maldives is or with Sri Lanka, just because we gave them a certain 4.5, it doesn't mean that everything is hunky-dory. But it's again there's a change that's happening in Sri Lanka. I think even with elections coming, if you look at the fact that we are talking to different players in Sri Lanka, which is never the case earlier. So in that sense, and of course, Bangladesh, we have challenges, but we again a very strong, robust infrastructure partnership is emerging. But the point is that China has been in the game far longer, far ahead. And the way they're able to engage, maybe intrude in certain political landscape, which you've never seen before, is something that India won't, I mean, I don't think does want to play it that way. And I don't think we even have the capacity to play it the way they do. So we have our, limitations within the region in the Indian Ocean. But at the same time, look at the way our military exercises are increasing. Clearly, Quad and all of the Malabar exercises, we are doing defense. I mean, last December, there was a security conclave with Sri Lanka. So things are being put in place. And I think everybody does understand the boundaries, which was something in South Asia, I don't think was clearly ever defined. But again, this is the first time I see India defining its boundaries, which
This
is
is
a very clear
exactly what
message.
I was expecting from from this discussion. That how significant is this move?